Hi, I'm talking about Kill Bill and Taxi Driver and Martin Scorsese. I have to remember to say Martin Scorsese, but I might say Martin Scorsese because I've been saying Martin Scorsese all my life, and I like it more. Scorsese. Which sounds better to you? Scorsese. Hey, it's Scorsese. It just has more force to it. Scorsese. It misses it. So anyway, I want to call attention first to my illustration. It's not a very a time-consuming one. Some of my illustrations will take oh darn, like some of them have taken days. Like really, Massacre of the Innocents. Just take a look at that one. That's like a medieval painting. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And this one's quick. It's you talking to me? You talking to me? Then who the hell else are you talking to? Well, I'm the only one here. I'm not Robert De Niro. You talking to me? Yeah. That's I'm not going to explain the visual because the my talk will explain the visual. Okay. But there's this meta kind of thing looking at it. You talking to me, then who the else are you talking to? Well, I'm the only one here. And it's true. That's the funny thing about doing YouTube videos. I am the only one here. But I'm talking to people somehow. Or am I talking to a mirror? I don't know. I don't see myself in a mirror. I'm like a figurative mirror. Anyway, like first okay, so I'm interpreting Kill Bill by talking about Taxi Driver. Okay, so there's a trope in movie interpretation or critique that I'm going to use here. Okay, it's there's people talk about tropes in movies. Okay, and the trope is it's like a thing that happens all the time, and so, but you never hear about tropes in movie interpretation or critique. And we do that. We have ways of seeing movies. We have ways of reading books. We have ways of reading a text that will differ. Like I don't want to get into that, but there's some really interesting examples that cause different denominations on the same book. Like you'll have people like following the Quran that want to kill each other because they interpret a sentence different, and the same with Christianity too. The same with every piece of news. Every sentence can be flipped into its opposite. Yeah. Well, anyway, the watcher becomes the watched, I guess. The trope I'm using here allows an interpretation that doesn't have to rule out other interpretations. So this is the fun thing about interpretations. You can interpret it. This is what I like to do. I like to look at look at a book or look at something and see how many different interpretations there are. Okay, and sometimes people get tribal about it, but you don't have to. You could accept all the interpretations. That's not postmodernism. That's not postmodernism. I'm talking about levels of meaning. Multiple interpretations doesn't have to mean they mean the opposite from each other. When they flip, that's a totally different thing. But even then, I'm interested in that because I just like to see deranged opinions and see, wow, that's what you get out of it. That's very interesting. Like one deranged opinion is in my I did Snow White. Okay, I have a whole comic on it. I haven't released it yet, but it's a full graphic novella of I illustrate every single sentence. Okay, and anyway, I did a bunch of reading about how people interpret it. Before. Well, while I did it, I just interpret it visually. I don't force any interpretation. I just visually interpret. And then at the end, I go, "Oh wow, this is really saying something." And it's true. My Snow White says something that no other Snow White says just by looking at every single sentence. Okay. Now, what am I talking about? It's okay. I got it. We're just talking about movies, okay? We're just talking about movies. So this isn't, we're not forming a religion. We're just talking about Taxi Driver. And now if I'm gonna dump on Taxi. I'm not dumping on Taxi. It's a masterpiece, okay? And Scorsese's a great movie maker, okay? But like I say in my picture, I expose Martin Scorsese, and I'm not. I bet you if Martin Scorsese listened to what I'm gonna say, he's an open mind. That's the thing about him, okay? He'd probably think about it, and he might actually agree with me. I'm not saying I'm not saying he might, but the reason why I'm saying he might is like I'm complimenting him before I insult him. It's because my insult isn't even an insult. It's a secret to being like a certain type of great artist. Okay, a certain type of great artist has this aspect that Scorsese has. Okay, and if you have this aspect, you'll be a certain type of great artist, but you can't be another type of great artist, okay? And I'll get into it. I'll define it, okay? And I just want to tell you that this is all everything I'm saying is with love, because I love both of these movies, okay? And I'm just trying to say, artists aren't gods, okay? Artists aren't untouchables, okay? They're people, and we should just try to understand them, like with the art, okay? So I have this interpretation, and I think you might think it's fun. And so a lot of my own art is like this, where you can have like multiple interpretations, which is different than postmodernism, okay? Because it takes a long time and a lot of labor to write and draw a comic. Okay, so if you're, and the reason why this doesn't happen with other comics is it's only when someone writes and draws their own comic. Okay, and that's the same with movies. Okay, if someone writes and directs their own movie, okay, Scorsese's the exception here, because he was like, I don't want to say he doesn't write movies, okay, but he somehow has a certain personal love of Taxi Driver anyway that makes it his own work. And Stanley Kubrick, okay, he never wrote his own stuff too, but he somehow personalized it, okay, so much that it was like kind of equal to being a movie that's written by someone. And all I'm saying is, like, when you're, and these people, like, they worked on the screenplay themselves. Okay, when you work on something and you have full control, you go through a series of days and a series of just steps through life, and it ends up getting different shades as you go along. It's you think of the original idea, boom. And if you could do the art in a state of like 1 week, and it'll be the original thought, and it'll be pure that way. But it takes so long that you end up having these levels to them, and the levels are sometimes invisible to people. Okay, I do this because I feel this pressure. Okay, I can't just stop and think. I say something that I want to think. And then I'll push it, and then instead, like, instead of words, okay? And all I'm saying there is, the more the artist controls their own work, the more this happens, because you're recreating thoughts. And that's what art is, okay? This is what a lot of people don't get, is art is thought. A comic is really thought, okay? It has writing, like your verbal sentience, inside the head you hear words. It has pictures inside the head. You have pictures. You formulate pictures. You abstract the world. You take in the visual in abstracts, and it comes out. Okay, so I could make a drawing of someone, and it comes out. If I don't use a photograph, I mean, like, if I take the drawing and it comes out, you have all the invisible thoughts I had, and these thoughts can't be put into words, okay? And this is, so it has both sides of the brain, the comic book, but this is only if it's one single creator. And this is the problem is with comics is they stop being thought when they're made by multiple people. They stop being thought and they start being something else. Okay, and I'm not saying all art is thought. That's what I did say, I think, but not all art is thought. I'm talking about this certain type of art that cannot be duplicated by AI. There's something really beautiful about the human soul, and it comes out in art. Okay. Um, I mean, yeah, and like I talk about Stanley Kubrick, and like everybody knows about all his like movies. You could watch it over and over and over, and like all the levels. It's because he took so long. That's why. It's because he took so long. And 1 week he's thinking about this, and 1 week he's thinking about that, and it ends up having all the spanning time. Okay, the interpretation trope I'm using here, though, is I mean, to get right to the point. Okay, the interpretation trope I'm using is that part is a dream trope. Okay, that part is a dream. That part, okay, that part of the movie was all in the character's head. Okay, nobody ever used to say in the 20th century, nobody said this. Like, this isn't something people would do. But now, like, so many movies are, oh, that part was all in his head. Oh, that part was a dream. The whole movie was a dream. that sometimes it's true, but whenever it's there, resist it, and the art will carry more riches for your imagination. Okay, sometimes like it's a dream becomes a thought-killing cliche. Okay, and you stop thinking about the power of the work. And I'm going to explain how Scorsese's movie Taxi Driver has more power when you don't mitigate it with it was just that part's a dream. That part's a dream, you know. Even Mulholland Drive, the master example of this interpretation. Like, try to fight it and try to see it, not like try to fight like the obvious. I mean, Lynch says, yeah, that part's a dream, so that part is a dream. Okay, but try to fight it and try to like yeah, anyway, like because your dreams aren't dreams, you know. It's your thoughts are dreams. All your thoughts are dreams, okay? And what is the most reality? Carl Jung said that the greatest reality is our imagination. That is the greatest reality, even more than the physical world. And William Blake, he said that the imagination is our one link to God. It is our connection to God, our imagination. Okay, sometimes artists will use this interpretive trope of oh, that part was just imagined. Oh, that was just don't pay attention to that part because it was just imagined. No, don't do that. Okay, Alice in Wonderland, the whole thing was a dream. It's like the part that wasn't a dream isn't interesting, okay? But I mean, he didn't really have to make it a dream. That's the whole thing. It's just when things get to, oh boy, this is going to be like going to ruffle some feathers here, let's just say it was a dream. Sometimes artists will use that interpretive trope to relieve themselves of guilt. Now, I'm not saying moral responsibility, because I don't believe in condemning artists for art, because art is merely visual thoughts. That's what it is. It's visual thoughts married with verbal thoughts. You get them both and you create something, and it's your thought. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to put your thoughts down so that people can see your thoughts. But the problem is, like I said, like it takes too long to put those thoughts down because we're merely humans. Okay. Anyway, condemning art is condemning thought. Really, anybody that condemns art condemns thinking. There are thoughts I do condemn. I'm not saying I don't condemn any thought. There are evil thoughts. Okay, an example of an artist that I would say I condemn. I fully condemn that artist, Marquis de Sade. Okay, that's a high dose of mind poison. I read some of his work, and yes, it's very sick. And to connect with that work, you're what are you doing to yourself? Okay, what are you doing to yourself? I think they have a statue of him in France. Marquis de Sade, the guy that they got the word sadism from. And they have a statue of him, and he's like, that's the thing, is like, if free speech means Marquis de Sade to you, and some people free speech might mean, oh, I want that person that I don't like to talk. And that's good. That's good. And so we must let Marquis de Sade have his place, because it is a place in our minds. It's a sadism and all that kind of stuff is human, and to think that you're exempt from that is silly. So, but I mean, to make a statue of him is a different thing than just having him in a library and saying, okay, you can read him, but I mean, even a warning page. I don't like triggers, but Marquis de Sade, maybe there should be like a little introductory note. Like maybe you should brace yourself a little bit. And, anyway, yeah, I refuse to watch the movie Martyrs. Okay, I'm not gonna put the torture of woman into my mind. If it's drawn by a person, I will if it's part of the story. Like if it's drawn by a person, it's different. It might not be. A story like Blue Velvet, for example. Okay, she's Dorothy Vallon. She's tortured. Okay, Marquis de Sade's work is like stuff that's created by the villain in Blue Velvet, Frank. He comes from that world. Okay, I can't speak of Martyrs, so because Martyrs I'm not gonna see. But when you do a story, you have to depict things that are disgusting and sick. Okay. I mentioned the Massacre of the Innocents. Okay, that's a historical Holocaust, an atrocity exhibition where countless babies were slaughtered openly and swiftly. I wouldn't watch video footage of something like that. Imagine if you're watching like a really amazing reproduction, like you got like James Cameron, and you said, like, you better stop it with a CGI. I want something that looks realistic. I want something that looks like. Anyway, you got like someone like that, and he made it, okay, and it looks just like the mask. I wouldn't want to see it. I'm not going to see that. But when you see a drawing of it, it's mitigated. It's mitigated by the human soul, okay, and it depends on the person. What soul is it that drew it? Okay, and a lot of people draw in a generic style that's like kind of detached from humanity, and so like they don't have that mitigating factor, and they don't have the power of it, and it's a horrific event, and so you have, I mean, like my drawing is like a cross between German expressionism, medievalism, and sort of like a type of cartooning. Anyway, I added extreme pathos to the piece. It's a cartoonishly melodrama, I guess, by having the guy openly crying with red eyes. I made it black and white because it's not a event that should be like have the happiness of color. And I want you to imagine it too more. Black and white will make you imagine more. Okay, and this isn't an event I want to depict. I just want to depict the horror of it. So it's the drama works. Okay, it's not the actual event, but a symbol of the event. So we could look at Kill Bill in this hysterically symbolic manner too. Is Kill Bill art? Kill Bill, I think it is. Most movies are not, though. Okay, most movies are not art. Tarantino has maybe a 14-year-older's mind, but I believe 14-year-olders can make art too. If you can make thought, you can make art by allowing others to see your thought. Okay, that's, like I say, that's what the real art is. There's lots of art that's not. Art is turned into anything. Like people will say, I was talking to someone that gardened and was insisting that I called her an artist. It's like, you're a gardener. It's good. It's good. Like, you're the greatest gardener. I love your garden. I love your garden. But art has become like an invisible word, and I hate using it. Is a movie art? You're not drawing it. Like it's a whole team of people. So I don't know. Anyway, the movie in contention, I think, is Taxi Driver. After the guy that shot Ronald Reagan blamed the movie Taxi Driver, and that's what he did. He shot the U.S. president. Okay, I giggle around it. It's a terrible thing. Okay, but it seemed like it wasn't real for many years. Like what? Like because I mean, back before the computer and everything like that, it was like, when I first heard that he did it for Jodie Foster and you watched the movie, it just sounded nuts. I don't even know if I could believe it. It could be something that he told his lawyer and his lawyer used it to get a lesser sentence. Okay, could have been that. I don't know. But I'm not going to get into that. That's just so. But that's what I mean. And so, what would you feel like if you made a movie and somebody tried to murder somebody because of the piece of art you did? Okay, so I'm not condemning Martin Scorsese for coming out with a defensive mechanism. Okay, I'm really not. I mean, it would be creepy finding out that you did a piece of art and someone's blaming you for it. Okay, but maybe Martin Scorsese thinks he has moral responsibility, where Tarantino doesn't. Okay, so there's a different types of person. Tarantino just says, I do not agree with your premise. If you try saying, people have asked him, like, oh, if you do that scene or you say that word, you do this, and he refuses to take any moral guilt because he says art is art. I refuse to take your premise. I like right from the very premise. I'm not going to even start with that sentence. But Martin Scorsese doesn't have that kind of personality. Okay, he's like I said, he's very, very open, very sponge-like. Okay, where Tarantino's the opposite of sponge-like. Like Martin Scorsese, if you threw something at him, it would stick right into him. It would just stay inside of him. Where if you threw something at Tarantino, it would bounce right off. Okay, so I think Martin Scorsese might have invented that part as a dream, but maybe not, because he's kind of an encyclopedia of film. Like, so he probably knows like a whole slew of films that did that interpretation trope before him. And that's the question: is it an interpretation trope, or is it real? Like, Wizard of Oz. I mean, we know like the filmmaker does things for you to know that it's a dream. Even Mulholland Drive, like she opens up a box and then she gets sucked in, and then she's in another world where she's an unhappy person, and everything is a little bit less. The soundtrack isn't like a character. It's more like reality. Like this is what I'm saying is there's usually a visual cue, a clue, like that we're in dreamland now. Okay, and Mark David Chapman, and am I getting their name wrong? Is that guy that got let in? If so, forgive me. I don't care. They're people that assassins. I don't care. Let's call him Mark David Chapman. Let's erase the name of the other guy if need be. Okay, who cares? Apparently, Mark David Chapman, the perpetrator, would write to the screenwriter. Okay, I forgot his name. Interesting filmmaker himself. Not implicating him or Scorsese. How would you have known? Like if you were an artist and you had letters written to you by someone that's going to do a terrible deed in the name of your art, they don't tell you. You just think they're a fan and like, oh well, I'm glad you like my work. This is like when someone's driving and they're not doing anything wrong themselves, but a person that doesn't want to go on living, or they're too busy looking at their computerized device, they run or walk in the latter case. How many people run when they text? That's what the future will be like. People will be running when they text. If you don't run when you text, people will look at you like you're a weirdo. They won't want to be your virtual friend if you don't run when you text. But the person here is not doing anything wrong, is the driver of the car. Okay, they're just driving. This person with their head somewhere else are the one that doesn't want to live, runs or walks or jumps, skips in front of the car. It doesn't matter how it happened. Most drivers that operate under a guilt psychology rather than shame will blame themselves and always carry the guilt and the image of the person they saw end their life in a way that wouldn't have happened if the driver wasn't there. You know, you could always figure out a way to blame yourself. Maybe you ran a stoplight earlier. This is your fault for running that stoplight. Or you passed someone. It doesn't matter. There'll always be a link to find yourself responsible if your psychology is getting you to do that. Or if you don't have like a moral consciousness that is going to slap you in the face and say, no, no, no. Of course, this gets exploited by shadowy forces. Keep in mind, I'm still talking about Martin Scorsese and Taxi Driver. Okay, and the alternative to guilt-based is shame-based. I mean, the reason why I say it, keep in mind, is because it seems like what I'm talking about, this stuff, I'm saying things that apply to so much of life, okay? But really, I'm just talking about Taxi Driver and Martin Scorsese, which I think, you know, like it's shame-based. It creates people that can't be trusted. Shame-based society, you can't be trusted. Shame-based person allows another person to judge them. A person is judging them, okay? And so you know you're not bad unless you're caught, right? The guilt-based person is judged by God or an ideology. It's not a person. So it doesn't matter if you're caught or not, you know, like you're guilt-based. You're going to get to yourself, not the crowd, okay? The ideology is just God without a personality, really. Like there are a lot of people, they'll say that they don't have a religion, but they really do have a religion. They just don't believe in God. That's all they're trying to say. It's like they don't believe in God, and they think that means the same thing as they're not religious, but they are religious because they have a value system that is guilt-based, and you know, it controls the way you ethically move and think. I want to get deeper into that, but I'm talking about Kill Bill by talking about Taxi Driver here. And the guilt that Scorsese felt was like the driver's guilt. Okay, it's just this raw emotional thing, and you could tell this by Scorsese's movie. Okay, he doesn't judge his actors. That's his power. Okay, he doesn't judge his actors, and so a guy that doesn't judge his actors, he can't just fall back on just like a moral presupposition, like Tarantino. It's funny to call it Tarantino the moral guy, but Tarantino, he has like a moral that no, I'm not even gonna get trapped in your accusatory conversation, and he very, very deftly refuses to apologize, which makes him impossible to cancel. Like if he would have apologized years ago, he would be canceled, and you wouldn't have seen a bunch of like Tarantino movies. And so, yeah, Tarantino has no use for that part. It was only a dream interpretation. Oh, yeah, and every time when my characters use the N-word, those parts are dreams. was Scorsese's guilt like the driver? Or what if there's something we don't know? Look at the screenwriter's career. He came out of nowhere. Like this guy's just like he was from some small Mormon or Calvinist town. Very, very strict parents, maybe Mennonite or so. I don't know. And he moved to New York out of from nowhere to find immediate success. How could his subtle scripts get immediate attention? Like imagine getting immediate attention. Like what script like Taxi Driver and like the stuff that did he write Mean Streets? I'm not sure. Anyway, I think that the famous critic like immediately mentored him. Okay, like what's her name? Tarantino practically worships her with all the Epstein files news we have. Many of us have Kubrickian suspicions of celebrities. I bet it's different with Tarantino, though. I bet if I was suddenly endowed with the powers to stop time and I was able to rummage through celebrity houses and find their secret chambers, because everybody knows celebrities all have secret chambers. Oh, hey, AI, algorithmic robots, I'm not pushing conspiracies. This is not a conspiracy. I'm just talking movies, having fun. just saying crazy stuff, silly stuff. Okay, it's just imagination land. Okay, so yeah, back to humans. Now, if I stop time and go into Tarantino's house, of course, I'd check out his movie collection first. But he'd probably have a theater that projects films, so I wouldn't be able to watch anything because I don't know how to project film myself. I'd waste no more time and find his secret elitist chamber. His one would exactly mirror some firm set from Mario Bava, but the goddess of his shrine would be not something that you'd expect from a Mario Bava set design. It would be film critic from the 20th century, Pauline Kael. He would have a shrine for her, maybe a copy of Michelangelo's Birth of Man painted on the wall, but with Pauline Kael replacing Adam. Anyway, I'm gonna read her critique of Taxi Driver right now. Okay, I read it. Everything that I've been thinking, and my whole argument is totally confirmed. For your note, Paul Schrader. That's the writer's name, Paul Schrader. He has a name that I just forget. I've seen some of his movies. I just forget. Some people have these names that I just forget. A very interesting filmmaker. He has one of the darkest movies I've ever seen. It's amazing. It's the guy from Hogan's Heroes. I forgot what it's called. Actually, he was a real swinger, and he would like photograph everything. And what a nihilistic life. Paul Schrader's a strange kind of. I can't figure him out necessarily. He's like a moralist. He's a guy that used to be religious, maybe, but his parents were way too hard, and so he has those morals, but he's not religious anymore. I don't. Anyway, after Pauline Kael saw the movie, her friend, some guy from the last century, said, Pauline. Okay, now keep in mind that Pauline read the script. She was like right there, right from the start. She's personal friends with these two movie makers, okay? But when she saw the movie, her friend, some guy in the last century, said, Pauline, quote, leaned back in her seat and cried. He's still out there. Like she's saying, like she was so horrified that Travis Bickle got away with it. Okay? Remember this. Remember how horrified she was. Okay? It was actually reported how horrified she was. And she said how horrified she was in her critique, right in her movie critique, which she never doesn't say anything about, like, well, that last part was plainly a dream because I tell you what, I'm personal friends with the filmmaker. No. She was horrified with it, and that he was riding his cab again. Okay, that he got away with it and riding his cab in Maine. She didn't think the soundtrack was good enough, which is a strange thing. Because I think the soundtrack is really great. I think it really, like when he's driving through the New York City streets and that soundtrack is blowing and there's all the fog and it's really quite magical. Anyway, she knew the script. She talked about it with her friends Marty and Paul. In her critique on the movies, she said that she was horrified that Travis was driving his taxi after committing what she saw was a horrifying tragic death. Pauline Kael hated Dirty Harry movies because she wrongly called them fascist. Okay? This is what Pauline Kael is like, okay? So she's not like she's horrified by Dirty Harry and she's horrified by Travis Bickle. To Tarantino's credit, all joking aside, he disagrees with her assessment of Dirty Harry. And he says that, like that Dirty Harry is not fascist. And so, Tarantino's, I'm ribbing him. Like he doesn't have a shrine to Pauline Kael. He loves Pauline Kael, but he's his own person enough to say, oh, Pauline Kael, she's totally off the, she's not right there. Yeah, anyway, the pimp was an evil man. Okay, we could all agree with that. Okay, the pimp of a 12-year-old, a 12-year-old prostitute. She was 12. Okay, this is an evil man that's grooming a child. Do we say this? Yes. Um, Scorsese said he put, and this isn't politics, AI. I'm saying this word, and I'm talking about a movie. Like, can't we talk about movies? They're gonna like, oh boy, you said this word, but I have to constantly say I'm not talking politics. I have one guy, he's a hater, hey, and I don't have anybody commenting, but this one hater, and he reads everything as politics. He doesn't. At one point, he's saying like I'm like a. He flip flops too, like, but it's people have an inability to see things apart from politics now. It just sucks for art. Um, anyway, Scorsese. This is now. I'm not condemning Scorsese. I'm saying let's look at Scorsese's power of an artist, and part of the power of an artist that he is he's non-judgmental. Okay, but there are different types of non-judgmental. You could be non-judgmental so you don't know right from wrong, and then you're not judgmental, like right off the bat. And it's like, okay, I know that beating people up is bad. Like it's really simplistic. Like you know what's good and bad, but only in this rudimentary sense. And you kind of go with everybody, and you go with anybody. And like maybe a lot of filmmakers too are very taken in by charisma more than anything else, and I think that might be a Scorsese thing. Because Scorsese and I believe Paul Schrader, they both said, but Scorsese for sure, like he right on the, like he's right on, like on video saying that he put the scene. It wasn't originally in the scene of him having fun dancing with his 12-year-old prostitute. He put that in because he was worried that people would think that he's a monster. Oh my gosh, this guy, he's such a monster. I want to show that he wasn't all bad. He's human. And here's a moment to balance his bad qualities. And that's shocking. That's shockingly naive. I'm not saying that's shocking. Scorsese, what a monster. He's a monster. What I'm saying is it's shockingly naive lack of understanding of human nature that and evil that Scorsese, the filmmaker of evil, has. He doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't know right from wrong. It makes it sound like a 5-year-old, but I mean the pimp is owning the young runaway's emotions and taking the place of her parents and boyfriend at the same time. To look at that as humanizing and or balancing is a shocking opinion, because it shows he doesn't see the world in right and wrong necessarily. He sees it just emotionally. He sees it like the little kid sees it. He's the kid. She was like, oh, this is my emotional connection, because when you try to take the kid away, it's not just fear. You can't hold a 12-year-old just on fear. You have to also get their emotions and own them. Okay, and that's what he was doing. And Scorsese, he couldn't see this. And it's a good thing that Scorsese doesn't write his movies, because that's the scene he wrote. That's the scene he wrote into it, because he wanted it to be more moral. And I say again, I'm not morally condemning Scorsese. I'm just saying, figuratively and literally, he's a child morally. Maybe his diminutive size doesn't allow him to understand human nature fully. That it sounds like a short joke. I'm not making a short joke. It sounds like one. It's like, I apologize for that, because it is a funny burn if it was one, but it's not. It's what I'm saying is he's always been the guy that can't rely on his own physical power. And so that's going to skew your perspective of how you see people. Okay. And I'm just mentioning that scene to prove Martin Scorsese doesn't understand the moral dimensions of his own movie. Okay, this is why he caved in and said, that part is a dream. It's a dream. Oh, it wasn't my fault. Because he doesn't know enough to say that it's not his fault. I feel like a jerk saying he's a moral idiot, but that's a term that people used to use. That person's a moral idiot. And a person could be super smart, but they're a moral idiot. And they would talk about scientists being moral idiots, like in the 20th century. And this scientist is super smart. And Martin Scorsese, I'm not condemning him. I'm just saying he has a child's understanding. He's a moral idiot, but he's still a great artist. And those features of him allow him to channel the emotions of a character. He understands the emotions of his movies, but not the morals. This is why he freaked out when the psycho Mark David Chapman shot Ronald Reagan, because of his movie. It was his fault, and he wasn't grounded enough to say, no, it actually wasn't my fault. That person's just a crazy person. Imagine watching a movie and only a moral idiot feels guilty for what they didn't do. And that's like the person that drives into the person. And that's a hard thing, though, because if you drive into someone, you see their eyes. But Martin Scorsese didn't have the moral fortitude to say, that's not my fault. I just made a piece of art. Kubrick didn't say his movie was a dream when people committed atrocities and blamed The Clockwork Orange. But he said, okay, I'll take it off the market in the UK, where you guys complain. And he didn't re-examine his thoughts and say, no, actually, no, he made the movie he made. He said, you guys aren't adult enough to watch it. I'll take it off the market, but I'll let America watch it still. I'll let France watch it. I'll let all the other countries watch it, but not you, UK. That's what he did. Pauline Kael, she was friends with Martin Scorsese, and Paul Schrader, I already said. She read the script before the movie was made. She intimately knew this movie. Not only that, but Martin Scorsese had deep respect for her movie opinion. And she had no idea about the ending being a dream. Or, okay, this is the thing. She wouldn't have stood up in the theater crying and making comments about the killer being allowed to roam free. Okay, that makes no sense. And like, why? What a nasty dream he had, and he's roaming free, and he had that nightmare. He should be thrown in jail for having that. No, this wasn't what she was saying. It wasn't what she was saying at all. Of course, she feels sorry for the pimp who hurts children. Okay, you see that? She feels sorry for the pimp who hurts children. That's where her sympathy went. I don't say she's a moral idiot, though, because she's consistent with her moral outlook. Unlike, I don't agree with her moral outlook. I don't think it's quite fully thought out. Okay, but Scorsese doesn't seem to even have. Other than hurt people bad. People don't hurt people that bad. No, hating Dirty Harry, that it's idiotic because, I mean, it's not idiotic. You can hate Dirty Harry. To say, like, because he's a fascist, he's stopping dangerous killers. Okay, she feels horrified. Travelus, the vigilante is free after he eliminated very dangerous and evil people. Like, these people were very dangerous and evil, but he's still out there. Like, who's it going to be next? Who else is a pimp of underage girls? Like, Who else is next? Again, we're talking movies here. It sounds like politics just because it's, I'm talking about Pauline Kael and her feelings. Don't think I'm talking politics. I'm talking story. We get too much politics, and this is about art. I'm talking emotions and moral consistency, and how Martin Scorsese doesn't understand a pimp dancing with his 12-year-old girl is really creepy, and it's a psychological con job that he has to do so she doesn't run away. This isn't to condemn Scorsese, but that's the thing about art, is what you don't understand creates your art. Okay, it is. It's like none of us understand everything. My art is all artists' work is skewy and weird, because I only see one narrow place of life, and that's like real art is not art that is perfect, okay? Because it shows us, like I was saying, it's like you see, you're seeing inside of Scorsese's soul in some way, like by the, imagine if he had like a sensitivity reader saying, well, hey, that's wrong, you shouldn't have that, and they wouldn't have that scene in it, okay? And that scene's actually true. Even though Scorsese put the scene in for a psychologically dumb reason, it's actually what a person that is a pimp of an underage girl would be doing. They would have to wine and dine them and own them emotionally, okay? Perhaps the best directors are moral idiots, because you have to deal with actors and characters in this kind of maybe a non-judgmental way too, because a lot of the actors are, they sound like, I don't want to say psychopaths, they sound like narcissists. They sound like amazingly so. And to be a director, it's a very weird job. It's not like doing comics. Like I draw the person, I create the person, and they don't run off away from me, and I don't have to argue with them and tell them. I don't have to do like little tricks with them. One of my favorite tricks is Stanley Kubrick. He did with that guy that played in Patton, George C. Scott. George C. Scott wanted to make it really serious, but Kubrick's is a comedy. And he's like, he doesn't care, George C. Scott, he's going to do it the way George C. Scott wants. And so Kubrick got him to do like a whole bunch of ones, like, and, he does his little technique. Okay, let's do like, some just to goof off to get you like in the mood and everything like that. And then so he did that. And, Kubrick never showed his serious stuff. He only showed his, like the crazy kooky stuff that he did. Only as a practice. He didn't even know the film was running some of the time. Anyway, that's not an example of a moral idiot. Actually, I think Kubrick's not the moral idiot. I think Kubrick is actually more morally intelligent than and that's the thing, is like, I'm not, someone will think that with art it's different. Like not everybody is morally intelligent, and that their art should reflect it, like that should be reflected in art. There are hidden judgments built into the style that the viewer can have if the artist is doing something honest. I'm gonna spitball the idea that the more realistic in quotes, realistic an art is, the less an artist themselves have to morally understand or empathize with their characters. I mean, realistic, I'm not doing like realistic, photorealistic. I'm saying like the more your story becomes true, maybe true, not realistic. It's like you tell the story, and the artist or the writer doesn't have to know everything about it. They just write something that's true, and it's that piece is actually smarter than the artist. Now, I'm being kind to Scorsese, I am, because I'm like, I think I am. The alternate thought is that he's a creep. As a 12-year-old girl dancing with her pimp. Like, how could you, like, what is this? This is not a warm-hearted moment. Like, does this mean that in real life he's seen stuff like this? I've read stuff like this about people like Mick Jagger and David Bowie. I don't know if it's real, but I read them. And it's in. Would they sue if it's not real? And there's some really, really crazy things that happened in the 70s that was normalized, okay? And so, think inside of your mind how stylized your memory of that scene is. And it's like, my stylization shows the pimp as a monster, but Scorsese's stylization inside of his mind shows the pimp being warm-hearted, and this is like a moment to show that he's not all bad. So I mean, if someone's at, like, so if he has a friend of his doing that, like it's like a director friend or a rock star friend, I mean, he hung out with rock stars and stuff like that, so chances are, if he saw that in real life, if you see that in real life, you're going to say, oh, what a warm-hearted rock star. Isn't he nice to that 12-year-old girl? Like, isn't that beautiful when I'm seeing in front of me? So this is what I'm saying. I'm being generous to Martin Scorsese. Okay, I could take it the route where, what a weirdo, but I'm not going to take it that way because I don't walk in his shoes. I never lived as an adult in the 1970s knowing rock stars. And what would it be like if I was an adult knowing rock stars and doing huge mountains of cocaine? I bet you I would have seen a lot of sinful moments, but I mean, you'd have to run away and say, I'm not going to be part of this group. Okay, so everybody in that group saw like things that would melt our eyeballs. Okay, and they didn't think it was evil. They thought it was good. You could see something that's evil, and another person can say, look at that warm-hearted good person. Okay. The mind of a visually literate person, I'm saying a visually literate person, will not protect itself from psychic damage by artistic stylization. I mean, it will. It will. A visually literate person, you protect yourself. That's what I mean. It's like, I mean, no, even visually illiterate, you do that. You people in their minds, they'll see someone as a cartoon. If they don't like them, they'll turn into this kind of cartoon of something like guided by their emotions. Okay, we have two sides of the brain. One, the photographic realism on the left side, and the emotional stylization that takes in everything intuitively of the person, of the cartoony kind of emotionally interpretive drawing. Okay, and we might not be visually literate, but we have that all in our minds. Okay, we have that in our minds, and some people are created into monsters, and one eyeball will see a monster, and one eyeball will see a wonderful person. Photographic realism takes away the human element. Scorsese's style can be said to be expressionistic. That's only through the stylings of a documentary. Okay, this movie often gets called expressionistic, but look at that scene this provocative scene I just mentioned. If it's expressionistic, it would tell you what to think, because that's what expressionism does. Is the expressionism it exaggerates the expressions. Okay, so I don't actually say Scorsese is expressionistic. And people like to say that. This is all to prove that Scorsese just created a movie interpretation trope people use in all sorts of movies just so he wouldn't feel guilty. Okay, he did it. So, and he believes it himself now. He never believed it before. And then the killing happened. And it's, oh yeah, this is the way I wrote it. It's like, get lost. Stop it. The person that feels guilty for ending someone's life in a car crash sees the body. When we see a body die, it's kind of a transformative experience when you see someone die. If anybody's seen someone die, it's a spiritual experience, I think. The guilt that these people feel, even though it's not their fault, is strengthened by seeing the horror right in front of their eyes. Okay, and so they might not feel necessarily guilt. They might feel something else. It's like maybe they have a lack of faith, and when they see the dying flicker of someone's eyes, they get an existential crisis. The face smash through their windshield, grimacing in a death stare into their very eyes, and and people say, "Oh, you feel guilty." It's no. There's a whole bunch of differences in the intensity level. So Scorsese is a guy that just read the paper, and people, well, no, then it's the fingers pointing. It's the shame. That's it. He's a shame guy. Okay, because like everybody's like looking at him and saying, why? I guess it's Martin Scorsese's fault. and this is like, in the 70s or the early 80s, whenever it happened, early 80s, I guess. Yeah. It was the Reagan. He was in the 70s. Anyway, so it's this is, we've had so many, video games cause this and movies cause that, and society, I guess, in those days too, to defend Scorsese a little bit. Maybe in those days that whole argument of movies are causing people to do this, but I mean, this is 1970s. It's like 1980s, like the whole decade of people having that argument. So, I guess he just doesn't have any moral fortitude to say, look, this is my art and I did it. So that was all to explain that part was a dream trope, okay, and Scorsese. And I am talking about Kill Bill, if anybody remembers. We're just having fun seeing our favorite movies in different ways. I don't want to erase your interpretation but yeah, anyway, it's just a dream. Maybe I think it makes it a less powerful movie if it's a dream. I think it makes it kind of silly. Oh, I dreamed about doing it, and then I drove around, and it's like, get lost. It wasn't a dream, because like the whole scene at the end with the taxi cab, like he was a different person, and she looked at him as a different person. She wouldn't say like, "Oh wow, you had this dream, and now I look at you as it makes no sense." His whole like it was a dream. So anyway, but we could have fun doing that and change any movie by taking, let's do that. Let's just take any part of a movie and just say that part was a dream, and you could change every movie like that way. Just pick like your favorite part and just say that part was a dream. So everything I said, okay, let's apply it now to Kill Bill, okay? The assassination parts in Kill Bill. Yeah, I'm not saying this. I'm saying let's play with this idea, okay? Let's play with the idea that the whole part of the movie, which is the bulk of the movie, are the assassination parts, and they're just a symbolic. They aren't real. They're just a symbolic representation of glamour, of the conception of what it is to be a woman without children, free to misbehave. And that's what she is. It's like in black and white, she's like pregnant, and she never was an assassin. She was never an assassin. Okay? She's this person that works at a record store. She has a baby and she has kids, and then she's like imagining herself without children, being free to misbehave. And it's a crazy thing. It's like she actually wants to have her children. She doesn't want to not have her children. And so she doesn't imagine like, a realistic scenario. She realizes like she She imagines something that's crazy. It's just wild, and like it's like, if you have kids and you imagine you don't have your kids, it's a sinful thought. Like, oh, imagine if I don't have kids. It's a horrible thought to have. Okay, and so you're gonna imagine like, oh, I was like, I'm an adventurer, like going to, like, it's a silly thought. It's just a fun thought. And that's what the spirit of Kill Bill kind of is, even though it goes deep. Like, you'll see. So yeah, she's free to travel, free to misbehave, no children, but all that freedom is cope. Tarantino is saying this freedom of the childless woman can only be bolstered by fantasy. Like in some way, Tarantino is weirdly insulting feminism. Okay, because he's like he's making it this crazy fantasy, this crazy, unbelievable, ridiculously fun fantasy. But the real life is she's just a girl that works at a record shop and she's married to a nice guy and she has some nice friends. Okay, that's her reality. Okay, and a lot of times, like, people will have this wonderful, wonderful reality, and they don't think it's all that wonderful. They wish they were traveling assassin without kids. Okay, none of it being remotely believable. None of it. Even sometimes it slips into cartoon. If anyone told you anything from her life as Black Mamba and told you it was true, you would think she's lying. Like, nobody would tell you that, and you wouldn't think the person's sane. Being a working woman isn't that exciting. That's why I'm saying it's cope. Okay, it's like she wants to. It's the idea of being a working woman isn't very fun, but if you think of it in like, oh, I'm a traveling assassin, that's very glamorous. Imagine the majority of working women's lives, and that level of excitement and glamour, it doesn't exist. Not even for 1% of them it exists. Like, this is like a fantasy level. It's a crazy fantasy level. Okay. On the other hand, her real life is depicted in black and white. Not beautiful black and white, if you compare it to the black and white of old movies, actually. And I wonder about this. It's because I know that he has the money to get the best cinematographers, but it's kind of not really wonderful black and white. And I don't know. I suspect he's mimicking some Asian movie. It has to be intentional because it's Quentin Tarantino. Okay, so he's probably like, there's some kind of Asian movie that he's doing. In any case, maybe he's trying to say that I can't make the black and white too beautiful because it's like it's fantasy is better than reality on some level, right? From Tarantino, symbolically, Tarantino's saying, "Wait, my dog is moving around." Okay, I told him to stop it. So back to like symbolically, Tarantino, what is he saying with the color and the black and white? Is color is fantasy and black and white is reality. Okay, color excitement. He's such a cinephile that he's using the color to be the new scheme women are given as a promise is color. Like, she's wearing Bruce Lee's kung fu outfit. It's an obvious cope. Like, she's wearing the special man's suit. Like, Bruce Lee is like, he could beat us all up, and she's wearing his suit, and like it's almost like a satire of like feminist tropes and movies made before that whole thing happened. The old-fashioned life was to raise kids with a loving husband and have great friends, and that's what she had. That's the old-fashioned. That's the reality. It's funny. The reality is in black and white, and the dream is in color. Do we know any other movies like that? Wizard of Oz. Okay? Bill is a creep, but he insults the husband and the friends for not being charismatic. That's like that's Bill's moral center for not being charismatic, really, you know. That's his big, like, you know, with this guy, and it's like it's kind of open ended, but he's really saying the colored film people are charismatic, cool, and exciting, and the black and white people are old fashioned, mundane, weak, uncharismatic. Bill's ethos is explained by talking about Superman. Bill is like, it's all about fantasy. It's fantasy. Like that whole color world, and Bill, he's a fantasy. In Superman, showing he's not really a warrior. You know, like he's not a warrior. He's like and that's the meta, the aspect, the meta level of this movie. He's not a warrior. He's like a guy that works in a comic shop. Like he's the character from True Romance. He's just a guy that likes comic books and movies. The whole warrior plot was just a fantasy from Chinese kung fu movies, a dream. Um, it's not real. She goes back to the black and white reality, which is even more stylized, like Dorothy in the Land of Oz. Like I'm saying, like the cinematography is like it's very kind of stylized. It's not wonderful. It's like I say, it must be some kind of pastiche of something Japanese. I'm thinking, and it's like, yeah, it's like Dorothy and the Land of Oz. That's really what he's doing there. The stylization on both sides is showing you that mundane doesn't really exist. Like the black and white is stylized in this sort of like a, I don't know. It's like almost like reality TV production values. Bill is a decadent degenerate. He died auto asphyxiating himself with a belt outside of all stylization. I mean, that's the actor did it, but I mean that's part of it. Hey, let's add that to it. But really, he had no heart. He didn't have a heart. Beatrix touched him in the heart, and he died. A mere touch does it, and that's dream logic, okay? And this is a fantasy. She's wearing the yellow Bruce Lee kung fu suit of the Superman. Okay, and let's just say that the kung, like Bruce Lee is the Superman. Okay, and he talks about Superman, but all it took was one touch in the heart, and he dies. He couldn't live outside of the dream. Could we just say Bill is Quentin Tarantino's own father? And like Tarantino's mother, she drove the child away and lived happily ever after. And you ask Tarantino about his father, and he's disgusted with him. He's like, he never wanted anything to do with him until he became famous. And it's like, hey, that's my son. He's famous. And there's some like B movies out there that are. I saw it once. It was crazy. It was Tarantino's father and Al Pacino's father, or something. There was like a couple other like guys that starred in like mafia movies and stuff like that, and their fathers. And it's a movie where it's like the fathers are like it's pretty wild. And anyway, like Bill is Quentin Tarantino's dad, and it's all a fantasy. That's it. That's my theory. You could check out my comics. I have comics. I have books. I'm the most prolific writer, comic artist in the world right now. There might be someone in manga world like that is as prolific as I am, but I don't even think so. I don't know. They have like rubber stamp kind of drawing styles, where like one page will be really cool, and then the next 3 pages are like, okay, you drew, like you used the rubber stamps to draw that. So like I don't know, their speed is sometimes kind of compromised by inconsistent quality. So and Americans, like you can't compare to them because it's like a team. team of people making something that it doesn't count. It doesn't count. If you're gonna do a comic, do it by yourself. Like letter it by yourself. Do the whole thing. If it's art, it's art. If it's not art, then I don't know, like get AI to do it or something. I don't care. Like I mean, I don't mean that. I don't care, but I mean when you have a comic and it's like a team of people making it, and they're drawing in the style that I don't know. I don't count it. I just don't count it. And like movies, okay. I love I love I love movies that are written and directed by the same person. Or if it's like some sort of passion project by someone like Scorsese who internalizes the screenplay, and it's or Kubrick internalizes the screenplay. Um, and then other times you get like these directors that just tell that damn story, and they never dreamed it. They never dreamed it, so they don't add anything to it, and they just tell it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the same level of art. It's not even art. It's you're watching something different. Um, I hate to use that word because people like to use that word as a status word, but all I mean when I say art is mind reading. Is it mind reading? No. Well, then it's not. It's a bad definition. People have been arguing about it the whole 20th century. Is it art? It's just a word. Just a word. Anyway, this is my video. Here it is. I hope you like my my theory.